Way to Ruin, a Havoc in Wyoming bonus story by Millie Copper.
I stare into the empty cabinet. A few cans of vegetables, a single can of pork and beans, and a sleeve of crackers. That's it. Nothing left in the fridge or freezer either. Not that they'd be any good. The power grid failed a week ago. Supply chains collapsed, and everything spiraled out of control. I'm down to scraps. I run my fingers along the bare shelves. Ought to have listened to that Mollie chick. The flight from Prospect, Wyoming feels like ages ago, though it was barely 2 weeks. I was in 13A, she in 13B. Pretty enough. Older than my usual type, but cougars were supposed to be in style, and something about her suggested she could be a tiger if she wanted. I had a massive hangover but tried to play it cool. I'd spent a whole week at Danny's cabin, drinking myself stupid and chasing anything in a skirt. Told everyone back home I was going to go fly fishing in the Bighorn Mountains. Danny's place was in a little town called Saddle String, and while it was in the mountains of Wyoming, we never made it fishing. Easier than admitting I'd maxed my credit card on booze and bad decisions. Fishing isn't something I enjoy, but it sounds good when people ask what I do on vacation. Sounds responsible, outdoorsy, the kind of thing that impresses women. Mollie was different from the usual suspects I chased. Clean, wholesome, the kind of woman who probably had her life together. She was reading when I took my seat. I deliberately bumped her arm, testing her reaction. "Excuse me," she said, looking up with those green eyes. "Sorry about that." I flashed my best smile, the one that used to work back when I had better teeth and less gut. "Good book?" "Not really." She laughed, something I picked up. That's when I saw the ring. A husband. Of course. The good ones always had husbands. But the ring looked old, and bored wives sometimes had wandering eyes, especially when their husbands weren't around. Later, when she'd started telling me about her goats and sheep and who knows whatever else, I asked, "Do you know anything about Mormons?" She'd given me a wide smile as she said she knew a little. I almost hear my own words from before playing back in my head. I had said I was Mormon, and we were commanded to keep food, water, and some savings. It used to be a year's supply, but that was too much, so they'd cut it to 3 months, more if you could. I'd mentioned the ones who still kept the old year's worth and piled on more, and I had said that anything beyond the expectation felt excessive, maybe even like hoarding. Lying came naturally. I'd spun tales to women for years, half believing them myself, about my job, my income, my intentions. This was nothing new. No way would I tell her the truth. Maybe I was Mormon once, but that was a long time ago, and I never bought into that whole food storage nonsense. And savings? Yeah, right. Truth was, I'd been out of work for 3 months and was staring bankruptcy in the face. Mollie didn't seem to know I was lying. When I mentioned hoarding, her eyebrows had shot up, and she gave a little laugh that she quickly covered. I did not know what church she belonged to, but she looked religious. Maybe not an actual Mollie Mormon, but she's probably close to it. Even now I give a little laugh over my pun with her name. "Do you follow the LDS food storage guidelines?" She turned in her seat to face me fully now. "That's wonderful. So few people take it seriously." "Oh, I take it seriously." I leaned closer, letting my voice drop to an intimate tone that drives women wild. She leaned back but didn't seem to be too upset at my attention. She definitely warmed to the subject, and we spent 20 minutes chatting about wheatberries and mylar bags, about rotation schedules and water purification. I nodded and made interested sounds and threw in details I invented on the spot. Told her about my imaginary basement full of supplies, my careful inventory system, my dedication to following church teachings. All the while I was thinking about whether her layover in Salt Lake would be long enough for us to get a hotel room. Or maybe I could convince her to miss her connection to Portland. "The key is variety," she was saying. "You can't just store wheat and rice. You need protein sources, vitamins, and comfort foods for morale." "Absolutely," I agreed. "I've got cases of canned meat, freeze-dried vegetables, even some chocolate for the kids." "You have children?" Another lie coming. 2 boys, 8 and 10. They don't understand yet, but someday they'll thank me for being prepared." She smiled. "And for following church teachings, I'm sure." The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. We were beginning our descent into Salt Lake. I had maybe 10 minutes left to make my move. "Listen," I said. I'd love to continue this conversation. You seem as though you really know your stuff. How long is your layover? She narrowed her eyes. I thought you said you lived here. In Salt Lake. Oh, I do. I was just thinking I should have been taking notes. You are such a wealth of information. She adjusted in her seat, diverting her eyes from me to her carry-on under the seat in front of her. Thanks for helping me pass the time, she said. But my flight leaves pretty soon. I'll need to run. Why don't you take a later flight? We could grab dinner, compare notes on storage strategies. Maybe I could show you some techniques I've learned. She hesitated. I convinced myself I saw the temptation in her eyes, the loneliness of traveling alone, the excitement of meeting someone who shared her interests. Though now I wonder if she'd just glanced away. I don't think so. Her tone was crisp. No nonsense. She'd totally shut me down. Of course, I said, backing off just enough to seem respectful. But if you change your mind, I'll be at that sports bar before leaving for baggage claim, the one with the big screens. She nodded politely and adjusted in her seat, but I caught her glancing at me twice during landing. I still had a shot. The plane taxied to the gate. I made sure to walk slowly down the stairs and across the tarmac, staying close behind her. She was even prettier from this angle, short and curvy, fun size. Mollie, I called as we entered the terminal. Think about dinner, as fellow preparedness enthusiasts. She turned back, and for a moment I thought I had her, but then her face changed. Have a good evening. She gave me a nod and sped up her pace. Even after all the signs, I convinced myself she might change her mind, so I waited at the sports bar. It wasn't the first time women played hard to get, and some of them had been way hotter than that Mollie chick. After 3 whiskeys, I started to figure she wasn't coming. I made my way to the truck I'd left in long-term parking and headed home. A few days later, after several planes had been shot at while trying to land, and bombs went off at airports when first responders arrived, I kept thinking about my conversation with Mollie. Someone like her probably saw the crashes and explosions as a reason to stock up. The more I thought about her and that conversation, the more convinced I became she was rich, probably buying stuff just for the sake of buying stuff. I had considered grabbing a few bags of rice and beans myself, but instead, I cracked open another beer and kept watching the destruction unfold on TV. You'd think I would have wised up the next day when another attack happened. This time, the attackers destroyed dozens of bridges. But, like the airplanes, it didn't happen near me. On Saturday around lunch, I was making my selections at the liquor store, buying ahead since Utah's a dry state on Sundays, when some guy checking out yelled, "What do you mean I can't use my credit card?" "Hey friend," the cashier said. "We've been having trouble with the internet. It's in and it's out. Right now, it's out. Maybe run down to the ATM, get some cash, and come back." The man had several choice words to say about what he thought about that, which ended in, "Keep it. I'll go someplace that actually wants my business." I took my selections up to the counter. "Hey, Charlie," I said, greeting the man who seemed to work every Saturday. "Machine really down, or was the guy just being a jerk?" He motioned to the 6 bottles sitting on the counter. "Think I'd want to pass up a sale like that? It's really down. You got cash?" Kind of a silly question since I've never used anything but cash in here. My unemployment benefits stretched just enough to provide booze and food. Any day I'd probably be getting an eviction notice for the apartment. With my bottles wrapped up properly in brown paper bags so as not to offend the good people, I made my way back to my house. Had I known exactly what was happening then, I'd have skipped the booze and gone to the grocery store. Who am I kidding? I'd still have picked up the booze, but I'd have gone to the grocery store too. Famous last words. I slammed the cabinet door shut. The sound echoes through my empty apartment like a gunshot. Outside, smoke rises from the remains of the liquor store. The police used to show up, but I haven't seen a squad car in days. Now everyone's fending for themselves. By the time I got back from the liquor store that day, the electricity was out. It's been out ever since. At first, I told myself it was temporary. I managed to get an old battery-powered radio working, and the president came on, spouting something about a cyber attack. He assured everyone that they would sort things out soon. A week has passed. Nobody sorted anything. I'm out of food, out of booze, and there's no way to get more. The grocery store's closed, but that didn't stop people from smashing the doors down. Looting. I didn't even realize it was happening until it was too late. On Monday, I finally ventured out toward the liquor store, hoping to resupply. Someone had shattered the windows there as well. Someone had stripped everything inside, and that still wasn't enough, because someone set it on fire yesterday. They had looted the grocery store as well, but at least they hadn't burned it. Not yet, anyway. I thought about going inside, but an armed guard blocked the door. One look at him told me I would have to wait until he was gone, or come back better prepared. I should have listened to Mollie. Should have taken notes instead of trying to get her to go out for a drink with me. Maybe if I had, then I'd have been paying attention when things started to fall apart. I could have gone straight to Supermart when those planes went down. I could have filled a cart with canned goods and rice and all the things she talked about. Instead, I drank myself into a stupor, flipping between news channels and an old sitcom, passing out in front of the television. Now I've got a chance to fix what went wrong. I'm taking it. I shoved the ski mask into my pocket and grabbed my car keys. My little snub-nosed .38 is already in my coat pocket. I grab a couple of grocery bags, the reusable kind everyone thinks is so environmentally friendly. That big help they are. Who needs to worry about saving the planet when everything's already fallen apart? I know exactly where I'm going. The Thornhills live 3 miles across town in one of those perfect suburban neighborhoods where everyone knows everyone, and they probably organized some kind of mutual aid society the minute things went bad. Jason Thornhill is some kind of investment banker, rich as snot, and a good little Mormon. His wife Becky is the type who cans her own vegetables and keeps a year's supply of everything in the basement. More importantly, they've got 2 teenage daughters. Pretty girls, probably scared out of their minds right now. Might be willing to trade food for protection. Might not have a choice in the matter. My old car coughs to life on the 3rd try. I back out of the driveway, tires crunching over the broken glass from the Henderson's car. One night, someone shot their windows out. Not sure if it was a drive-by or something else, but they hit the car and several of the first-floor apartments. Even killed a woman sitting in her living room. Makes me glad I'm on the 2nd level. I drive slowly through the ruins of my neighborhood. Even in the dark, there's enough moonlight to see the destruction. Every place tells a story. Some people are already gone. I note who's still around and who's left. As houses empty out, I'll see what people left behind that I can use. My biggest question is where they go when they leave. Fuel is difficult to come by, thanks to the cyber attack and the shortage that followed the destruction of most of the country's refineries. I've managed to scavenge a little from parked cars, poking holes in gas tanks and draining the remnants. It's enough to get me to the other side of town, to the Thornhills, but then I'll have to repeat the process to get back home. Or maybe I'll just stay. Convince the Thornhills it's time for them to move on. The elementary school at the end of the street is a blackened shell. Someone tried to turn it into a refugee center. It lasted only one night before someone torched it. Several people died. Very sad. I take a left and head toward the commercial district, or what used to be the commercial district. Supermart is here. Like the smaller grocery store near my apartment, someone wrecked it. Windows smashed and shelves stripped bare. No security in sight. The McDonald's next door doesn't look much better. Rumor was the gas station across the street ran a generator for the first few days, charging an arm and a leg and limiting how much fuel they would give. It's now closed. If I'd listened to Mollie, I'd have been one of the smart ones, the prepared ones. I'd have filled my pantry with wheat and rice and canned goods before the collapse. Would have had water stored and a generator for power. Maybe even weapons for protection. More than this little handgun in my pocket. But that's not who I am. Never was. Even before everything went to pot, I was always looking for shortcuts. The easy way. The angle that would let me get something for nothing. Like when I was selling insurance, and I'd tell clients their premiums were lower than they actually were, just to close the deal. Let them figure it out later when the bills came. By then I'd have my commission, and they'd be stuck. Or when I was living with Linda 3 years ago. Told her I was getting promoted to district manager. Made up stories about the big house we'd buy together, the trips we'd take. All lies designed to keep her interested. When she found out the truth, she threw my stuff out the window of her second-floor apartment. I had to pick up my clothes from the parking lot while her neighbors watched. That's been my whole life. Lying and scheming and taking shortcuts. Using people when I could, discarding them when I couldn't. The difference now is that the consequences are life and death. Further down the road, I spot a checkpoint. 3 guys with rifles stand behind an overturned pickup. A burn barrel throws flames into the air, lighting up their post but making them an easy target. Not the brightest setup. Someone less friendly than me might see them as easy picking. They wave me down, but I floor the accelerator and take a turn before reaching them. One of them takes a shot, but the bullet goes wide. These amateur militias are all over the place now. Neighborhood watch groups that turned into something nastier. The Thornhills live just a little farther up the road, in one of those developments built in the 90s, when everyone thought the good times would never end. Big houses on quarter-acre lots, perfectly manicured lawns, 3-car garages filled with SUVs, and yard equipment. I met them last summer while I was working in construction. They hired the guy I worked for to redo their bathroom, and it came out looking good. They were easy to deal with, the kind of people who probably don't deserve what's about to happen. But I don't deserve this mess either. I've been thinking about it since yesterday, figuring the best spot to grab what I need. That Mollie chick's endless talk about pantries and self-sufficiency has fueled my determination to fill mine. So really, the Thornhills' beef will be with her, not with me. I'm just an instrument here. When we were working on the bathroom, Jason was off at his own job. The kids were in school, and his wife would disappear, leaving us the place to ourselves. I managed to pick up a few trinkets when the boss wasn't looking, just a way to supplement my wages. It felt a little wrong, but they owed me more than I was getting, and no one ever noticed. The neighborhood looks different now. No street lights welcoming me, no porch lights, no noises. I'm struck by just how quiet it is. Way different from my downtown apartment. A person could get used to this. A few homes show obvious signs of abandonment. One is completely boarded up, as if they were preparing for a hurricane instead of a blackout. Most, though, still look occupied. I take note of the empty places. Once I finish at the Thornhills, maybe I'll check those out, see what they left behind. Driving all the way over here was probably dumb. I could have continued picking in my neighborhood. But when I was here last summer, I'd noticed the pantry they had. It was bigger than my clothes closet, full of everything you could imagine, and the basement was even more impressive. That's where the prime choice goods are kept. These are the smart people, the prepared people, the ones who saw this coming and got ready for it. I know they'll have food, lots of it, and I'm going to take what I need. It's the perfect place to do my shopping, with everything closed down and destroyed. I park 2 houses down from the Thornhills place and study the situation. Their house is a 2-story colonial with white siding and blue shutters. One window upstairs shows a faint glow. Candlelight, probably. That means they're home. Standing by my car, I weigh my options. I could forget the whole thing. Maybe check out a few of the empty places, see what I can find. I always knew it was probable they'd be here, but now it's feeling all too real. Picking up a few groceries so I can get through what's coming shouldn't be unreasonable, right? I check the pistol and make sure it's loaded. 6 bullets. Should be more than enough for one family. I'm not planning to kill anyone if I can help it. Just scare them enough to hand over their food. Maybe tie them up so they can't follow me or call for help. Besides, if they're upstairs, they probably won't even hear me as I sneak into the basement. "You've got this," I whisper, straightening my shoulders. "You need this." If it comes down to them or me, the choice is simple. That's the thing about survival. It's not about what people deserve. It's about who's willing to do what it takes. The backyard is bigger than I remembered. A wooden swing set sits in one corner, no doubt built for the girls when they were younger. A garden bed runs along the back fence. Even in the dark, I somehow know there's no weeds. These people take care of things. Plan ahead. The opposite of me in every way. The sliding glass door to the kitchen is my way in. Locked, of course. The frame's old and the lock looks cheap. I shoulder it once. Nothing. Harder the second time. The door shifts a little. On the third try, something gives. The lock mechanism snaps, and the door slides open with a scraping sound that seems impossibly loud in the quiet night. I freeze, listening. Footsteps upstairs. A man's voice calling out. "Decky? Did you hear that?" A woman's voice responds, too quiet for me to make out the words. I step into the kitchen and silently close the door behind me. The room is dark. My eyes adjust slowly to the dim light. I take a few breaths, calming myself, and making sure the Thornhills are staying put upstairs. If I do this right, I'll be in and out before they have a clue what happened. The kitchen is exactly as I remember. Clean counters, organized cabinets, Everything in its place. A bowl of fruit sits on the island, somehow still fresh after a week without grocery stores. These people know how to manage resources. Deciding the coast is clear, I move toward what I remember as the basement door. That's where they'll keep the good stuff, the long-term storage. Rice and beans and canned meat. Enough to keep me fed for months. The basement door is off the kitchen, next to the pantry. The handle turns easily. Finally, something goes my way. I flick on my phone's flashlight and start down the stairs, stepping carefully, quietly. The basement is everything I had hoped for, and more. Metal shelving lines the walls, packed with food. Number 10 cans stacked 4 high. Bags of wheat and rice arranged in neat rows. Cases of bottled water. Boxes of pasta and cereal and crackers. Even some expensive freeze-dried meals that probably cost $50 each. This is enough food to last a family of 4 for months, maybe longer if they're careful about rationing. The Thornhills followed the church's recommendations to the letter. I've died and gone to prepper heaven, I say as I run my fingers along a shelf crammed with stuff. I grab cans, shoving them into the cloth bags I brought. My hands shake with excitement. Beef stew, chicken and dumplings, green beans, corn, peaches. The first bag fills quickly. I start on a second, grabbing bags of rice and boxes of mac and cheese. I need to figure out a way to take everything. Take enough for it to last, long enough for the government to get things sorted, long enough for life to go back to normal. If it ever does. Don't move. The voice comes from the top of the stairs. Male. Steady. No fear in it, which worries me more than shouting would have. I turn slowly, hands still full of stolen food. Jason Thornhill stands at the top of the stairs holding a shotgun. He looks older than I remember, probably from the stress of the last week, but his hands are rock steady on the gun. Behind him, I can see his wife in the kitchen doorway. Becky Thornhill clutches a baseball bat like she knows how to use it. I glimpse blonde hair behind her. One of the girls, no doubt. Put the food down, Thornhill says. I drop the cans. They clatter on the concrete floor, echoing in the silence. Look, I just need a little bit, just enough to get by. Times are hard for everyone. I know who you are, he says, starting down the stairs. The shotgun never wavers. You worked for Rick Campbell, helped with the remodel of our bathroom. My stomach drops. The ski mask is still in my pocket. In my excitement, I'd forgotten to put it on. You always seemed like a decent man. He continues, polite, professional. Becky used to comment on how courteous you were. I still am. I lie. This isn't personal. It's just survival. He shakes his head. No, this is a choice. We've been sharing what we can with neighbors who asked for help. We'd have shared with you. All you had to do was knock on the door. Becky takes a step down the stairs. We would have given you something. I'm asking now, I say. No, Thornhill replies. You're stealing. You're terrifying my family, my children. There's a difference. I edge sideways, looking for an angle. The pistol is tucked in my waistband under my jacket, but he has the drop on me. The stairs are narrow, with no room to maneuver. If I try to draw, he'll cut me in half before I clear the holster. Come on, Jason. Christian charity and all that. What would Jesus do? His face hardens. Jesus would feed the hungry, but he wouldn't approve of breaking into someone's home and stealing from their children. One of the daughters starts crying. Soft, scared sounds that cut through the basement air. It's a sound that should make me feel guilty, should make me reconsider what I'm doing. Instead, it just annoys me. Weak people crying instead of doing what needs to be done. This is how it works now, I say, taking a step toward the stairs. The strong take from the weak. You can share willingly, or I can take what I need anyway. Stay where you are. Thornhill commands. But I keep moving. He's a tired man with religious scruples. He won't pull the trigger. Not really. Not when it comes down to it. These church types are all talk when it comes to violence. Your daughters are pretty girls, I say, letting the threat hang in the air. Be a shame if something happened to them. That does it. I see his finger tighten on the trigger, see the decision form in his eyes. But I'm already moving, diving to the side as my hand goes for the gun. The shotgun blast is deafening in the enclosed space. The impact spins me around and slams me into the shelving. Pain explodes across my chest and shoulder. Cans of food rain down around me as I hit the concrete floor. I try to breathe, but something's wrong. Wet heat spreads across my shirt. The taste of copper fills my mouth. My right arm won't work properly. The pistol clatters away across the floor. Thornhills stands over me, the shotgun still in his hands, the muzzle still directed at me. His face is sad but determined. Behind him, Becky and the girls huddle on the staircase. "I'm sorry it came to this," he says. I try to speak, try to tell him about the plane and Mollie, and how I should have listened, should have been better, should have prepared instead of taking shortcuts. But the words won't come, only blood. My vision starts to blur around the edges. The basement feels cold. Becky is crying. One of the girls asks if I'm going to be okay.
"No, honey," Becky replies. "He's not."
Thornhill kneels beside me. "Is there anyone we should call? Family?" I want to laugh but can't manage it. There's no one, never has been. Just me and my schemes, and my lies, and my shortcuts. I drove everyone away years ago. Around me, canned goods lay scattered like broken promises. All the food I'd planned to steal. All those months of survival I tried to take from this family. I think about Mollie from the airplane. How she'd smiled when she talked about being prepared. How she'd planned for tomorrow while I'd only ever thought about today. The basement grows quiet, except for the sound of the Thornhill family crying. I should have listened to her. Should have learned something instead of just trying to use her. Should have bought supplies instead of chasing women and drinking away my money. Should have been better. But that's not who I was. Never was. The cold spreads through my chest. My breathing gets shallow. The concrete floor is hard against my cheek. And then it stops altogether.
This has been Way to Ruin, a Havoc in Wyoming bonus story by Millie Copper, produced by CU Publishing LLC and presented by Killer Cozies. Learn more about Millie Copper's books at milliecopper.com.